You looking good though. I read about you being an actor, sir, and last night being the Oscars. Did you take time to watch that?
Yeah, of course.
um, what Oppenheimer and Barbie were the two major films from this past year. Did you get a chance to see both of those? I mean, what did
No,
you think
actually,
about?
I haven't. Yeah,
Okay,
I've heard about Oppenheimer. Of course, everybody knows about Barbie, but yeah, no, I didn't see the film.
okay. Oppenheimer, as of this recording, is on Peacock for those that want to watch it. And Um, again, Bad Brad, we met each other on Twitter, advocating for democracy, fighting against Donald Trump's corruption, and we're going to get into a lot of that. Also, you are a Florida Boxing Hall of Famer, class of 2021, which I think is impressive. What I find most impressive, though, is that you're living in Indiana. We're fellow Hoosiers. I know you're not the biggest fan of our state, but how is it up in Lake County? I have an aunt that lives up in Gary. That's about an hour from you. But
Yeah, no,
what
no, no. Gary's not out. Maybe from you, but not from me. Gary's only like 20 minutes.
is it? Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I'm
I
in.
must have punched it in wrong.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm in Winfield, Indiana, and I actually was on it, not on the air, but I was at the Jimmy Kimmel show a couple of weeks ago with Debbie, and
Okay.
they gave me the mic to talk to him before the show and go back and forth. We say Kibitz, and he asked me where I was from. I said Winfield, Indiana, and he said, "What are they famous for?" I said, "I don't know, because they're a bunch of losers." And the whole crowd and Jimmy just fell out laughing.
Yeah.
And I got to mention something since you tied into the Trump stuff.
Yeah.
Of course, Frumpy Dumpy Tiny Mushroom Tumpy tweeted on True Social about Jimmy, and Jimmy read it on the Oscars, which was priceless.
All right.
Once again, Donald Trump got owned, but he can never shut his mouth. So that was hilarious to me too.
Yeah. You're way past your jail time, and
Exactly, exactly.
I as much as great as a joke as that was in live time, like I wish that they would actually arrest him. Like I wish because he's still walking free, and that I think that's one of the issues is that he still has an open mic. And another thing we can get into is that uh, cable news, he's sort of become a cash cow where you have to cover him with all that he's saying.
Well, you know this. You're in the business.
Yeah.
Ratings equal advertisers, and but the thing is, I understand ratings. I understand advertising. Money is what keeps the networks going and paying salaries. But the problem that I have is that he's an existential threat to democracy and humanity, and they really should be covering him a lot more serious than they do. I mean, some of them do, but this is it. If he wins, it's over. Democracy is over. We become a dictator, autocracy, and it's ridiculous. But they're not doing that. And they said in 16 they never give him the free billions of dollars with the excuse me publicity that they would, but they're back to doing it again. And every day since he left the White House, he's the news. But I want to talk to your point for a second about he should be locked up. Excuse me. The classified documents case. If you followed the young man last year that got caught in a chat room, or I can't think of his name, Jack something, and can't think of his last name.
Yeah.
He got locked up pre-trial, and I think he just negotiated. They just did a plea deal with him for 16 years in prison. He was locked up pre-trial for stealing documents and releasing documents.
Mm-hmm.
Trump has a judge, Eileen Cannon, down in Florida, who's in a can for him in the bag because he appointed her, and she's bent over backwards to try to help him out every way she can, from delays and everything else. He should be locked up pre-trial, period, period.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not. And he's not because he's Donald Trump. And I think the old saying about no one is above the law, well, that's bullshit because Donald Trump is above the law.
Well, and the issue is, I think that one of his trials, one of the cases he's in, that case is supposed to get rolling in March. I don't think there's enough time in between now and whenever the election goes down to actually hold him accountable. I mean, that's going to add a whole nother layer of it, is that he's going to have to show up for court in between
Yeah,
rallies that he throws for
right.
himself.
Yeah. You're talking about the Alvin Bragg, the hush money case that starts in March in New York.
Yeah, exactly.
The Stormy
Um,
Daniels one that he paid $130,000 to quiet her because he cheated on his wife, Mercedes. Oh, is it Melania or is it Melanie? Because he's named her three different names. You keep up.
Yeah, well, and the we're again living in Indiana, a place that advocates for uh, you know, the religious right and everything that goes along with that. And I don't know how you can call yourself a Christian and vote for that man. I don't
You
get it.
can't. Yeah, I mean, you can. You can call yourself whatever you want, especially on social media. What are you wearing for a shirt, brother? What is it, DMC?
Yeah,
On DMC.
since we
Okay.
connected over the Beastie Boys, I thought that would be a good
There you
parallel,
go. There you go.
So
And I don't know. In fact, you quoted, you said something about legend because I quoted Insane the Membrane, Cypress Hill.
yes, sir. Yes,
but
sir. Got the
but
right
yeah,
to vote and will elect, to quote Run
exactly.
DMC. So
Exactly. But yeah, no, they're so Christian out here, but they want to take away LGBTQ rights. They want to take the rights of African Americans away. They want to take the rights away of anybody that doesn't look like them. That's the truth of the matter. And they were always here. Trump didn't start racism or discrimination in this country, but what he did is he gaslighted it and gave it where they felt comfortable come out of swamps and say whatever they want, especially on social media. And I always remind these people that Trump, when he says these things, he's several Secret Service agents and his own security detail deep. When you guys spew this shit on the street to someone on the left, you better be careful because you're not Donald Trump. But they get beside themselves, spewing this garbage.
well, and another faction that seems to be radically for him, and I just don't understand it, is folks in the armed services. And you have experience with the U.S. Navy over 20 years, retired now with the Navy. And explain to me how someone in the armed services can vote for that man.
Okay, well, right. I did
Yeah.
20 years, 28 days in the Navy during War and Peace. And here's the thing people like to say, thank you for your service. And they think because you put on a uniform, that makes you a good person. The
Mm-hmm.
uniform has nothing to do with making you a good person. If you're a rotten bastard and you join the military, you're going to be a rotten bastard wearing a uniform. Now, there are some people that I work with that have transformed. They came from areas where maybe it was very racist and they joined the military. And the first time they were really around African American people or different cultures. And they grew. But these Trump veterans, they didn't grow. And if you support a treasonous traitor, and we take an oath to the Constitution to defend it against enemies, foreign and domestic, and Trump is a domestic enemy, your service means nothing. It means nothing. I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, well, he or she did whatever and retired. No, because I retired 18 years ago and I still uphold my oath. And the veterans that went to the Capitol on January 6th should lose, if they have VA benefits, they should lose them and they should be locked the F up in prison because they defecated on the oath that we took to a man. I don't worship Joe Biden. I don't. I respect Joe Biden. I endorse Joe Biden. I do everything I can to get away, but I don't worship him. That old thing where they say, Trump says, well, they don't, I'm going to win because I got more flags, Trump 2020. And we won. We don't need to have flags up and Biden hats and walk around with make America great again. We won a free and fair election that his minions, his cult, not minions, his cult decided they were going to go to the Capitol and try to overturn a free and fair election. And you talked about Indiana, Jimmy. Mm-hmm. We got Mike Pence, as I call him, Mike Penis, because he's a dick. He's supposed to be so godly, him and his wife. His wife, I don't know if she currently does, but your viewers can research this because I'm only talking facts. Taught at a school that doesn't allow LGBT or gay children or however they deem it, however they word it up. But you're religious. I always say, you don't have to accept a lifestyle. You don't have to agree with homosexuality. That's your choice, okay? But what you don't have, and I will not allow you to do, like they do, Pence and his wife, Karen, and the right, is treat any human being less than because you don't like their lifestyle. And that's what they do. Michael Flynn, he's another one, was in the military. They want to treat the LGBTQ like they don't exist. And that's wrong. That's wrong. My father, go to my pin tweet on my page, folks. Look at my dad on June 2nd, 1977, fighting for gay rights. At the time, we said Negroes. We didn't say African American then. It was Negroes. He was fighting for any marginalized group. Fast forward all these years later, Jimmy, what are we doing? We're doing the same things. We're digressing. We're not progressing. And I refuse to stand for it.
Well, and I think of my grandfather, who was a Teamster, and advocated for other people to have secure jobs. All of the safeguards in society seem to be evaporating almost in real time. I mean, as much as Joe Biden wants to maintain it, like if we elect Trump again, we don't have a government. It's a one
No,
man band.
no, and it's not hyperbole. I use the Joe Biden word hyperbole, but you have a problem. You have the Chris Cuomo's of the world who say, "Oh, we'll survive if Trump wins again." Very easy for somebody like Chris Cuomo, who's a multimillionaire, and if he gets rough and he starts going after media people, he can move his family to Switzerland and buy a chalet or a thing on the side of the mountains, whatever they call it, or another country. But for the average man or woman that he comes after, what can they do?
Right. Well, and you mentioned Mike Pence, and I said I would document a few stories on here in my experience. I was a liaison for the Indianapolis Colts on the sideline, where I would greet media members and anybody that would come in my area. And at the time, this was Governor Pence. He's coming out to see the folks. And let me say this: if I were his media person or advisor, I would do the same thing. But he came to me, and I have cerebral palsy. I've documented that several times on here. And in order to make it a safe day for me, I normally bring a walker to that big of a field. Walks right to me with my walker, and didn't necessarily talk down to me, but like there was that tone of, "How are you, buddy?" Like he just wasn't a normal person
Yeah.
in that moment, and it showed to me that he wasn't used to talking to people with disabilities in any form. So
Well, Jimmy, look at Donald Trump.
yeah.
They brought a military member that was in a wheelchair, and he told him, "Don't ever do that again. It doesn't look good." Really? I mean, so he big. Look, we know Mike Pence isn't worth the you know what because the fly landed on his head during the debate with then VP nominee Harris. They knew where the BS was. The fly landed. They already stayed there.
Well, and he doesn't live too far from me.
Oh,
There's a major golf course that's hosted the BMW Championship, and he's not too far from there. So also another story, and if you want to hear it told better, you can listen to the episode with Russ Maloney. But one of my teachers from college worked with him when he was a radio host. This is before he became a politician.
Mike Pence was a radio host.
Yeah. To give a
Jeez.
description of the show, it was sort of Rush Limbaugh on decaf. Even more boring than Rush was. But and I worked as a producer in talk radio, so when you have a host, normally they're not skilled at running the board and what needs to be done technologically. And his producer walked out on him mid show, and that's just like that's a fireable offense, certainly, but that shows you the kind of person that Mike is that he drove the person who's supposed to help him out of the studio. So,
Well, his brother is a congressman here in Indiana. I forget his name. I don't know if I think it's Greg, maybe. I can't think of his first name.
yeah,
But Mike Pence also got in trouble because he tried to basically take LGBTQ rights away. And I think he got overturned. He had a bill. I can't remember. I don't know exactly what it was. But he's a mess. The,
yeah,
the fact that they sent people to hang him that day, and they would have hung him that day if they grabbed him and he ran, he was scared. They give him credit. He did the right thing. But people forget that prior to him doing the right thing on January 6th, he was trying to find a way to overturn the election,
yeah,
and it didn't go that way. So I'm not giving him that much credit. Yeah, he did his job. He did his job. But the fact that he didn't speak out for him the first day, it's like Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley now is talking so bad about Trump, but she would have pardoned him. And when they signed the oath that whoever was the nominee, they would endorse him. It's all a bunch of crap. Look, Chris Christie's full of it. But at least Chris, and I'm no fan, he started out going after Trump, but he only went after Trump because Trump does like he does to everybody when he has no more use for him, he throws them in a dumpster.
right.
And then they're bitter.
Well, and Dan Quayle of all people
Yeah.
is yeah.
Potato or potato, anybody spell it.
Right, and he's no Jack Kennedy to,
Yeah.
to to reference the other guy who
Yeah,
put him in
right.
his
It was
place.
that was Lloyd Benson, the caucus's VP. And he said, "Sir, I was a friend of John Kennedy. You're no John Kennedy." That was
uh,
hilarious.
I'll tell you, like you pay homage to your father and have great respect for him. My dad was a musician in Indianapolis before passing away in 2019 from esophagus cancer. But
I'm sorry to hear that.
tell me about your father. What was he like? I'd like to know.
He was he was an amazing man. Like I said, go to my pin tweet on Twitter. That's June 2nd, 1977, from a whole piece, NBC Nightly News. And then they used a piece of that, actually, a clip of it in the movie Milk with Sean Penn. When I found out about that, it just floored me because my father passed away on July 2nd, 1998. He was everything that you see in those videos. He was 5'2", but he was a giant. He was a pioneer in the civil rights era, but he's not a well-known name. He marched with Dr. King in '63. He fought for Native Americans. He fought for Jews. I'm 50% European Jew on my father's side. Anywhere that he could use his voice, he did it at a personal cost. There was no social media then. He wasn't on Twitter and using social media. He was doing it in the streets like I said, at a personal cost. But nobody could back him down. He was Joe Pesci, the actor, before Joe Pesci came along, and Danny DeVito, little short guys, but with loud voices. And he was beloved by the people that stood behind him, the people that didn't like what he was doing, that were on the other side. He was feared, and as he should have been, because he didn't take any crap off of anybody. And he'd walk into a room and he would command that room. It's I've got the torch now, carrying it, and I always say I can't fill his activism shoes, but I can walk in his footsteps, and that's what I do on my platform and what I do. I want to do more publicly, but unfortunately out here there's not much to do. I marched in one rally when they reversed Roe versus Wade in Crown Point, and the MAGA came with the flags and the trucks, and they zoomed them up. The police did nothing. They tried to, with the exhaust fumes, but we still marched proudly. And the young lady that put it together, I can't remember her name. It's going to be 2 years now in June. She put it together, and we went out there and we marched. There was a lot of people, a lot of blue little dots in this area, but unfortunately, we're not enough to overturn turn the state even purple.
Yeah. I don't think we covered this. What brought you to Indiana of all places?
My better half.
Okay.
She got a job working here because I wouldn't be here. I don't want to be here. I don't like Indiana. I don't like the religious hypocrisy. I don't like the racism. And it's not all. I mean, I met some people that are not, but I've met a lot of them have. They don't, to be honest with you, people would think as outspoken, as loud as I am, that would be all the time. People, for the most part, they stay away from me. Because if they open their mouth and Trump comes out of it, we're done. I don't care who you are. If you're working on my house and you say you're a Trump supporter, grip your tools and get out of here. I'm surrounded by MAGA in this area, with the signs and the F Joe Biden spelled out in their yards, but that's how I wound up here. But I tell you what, the minute she retires, I'm pulling up the U-Haul truck and we're getting the F out of here.
Yeah, there's a fella down the street from me that has a "Don't tread on me" flag.
Yeah.
So, avoid that property. I hate to say this, and this includes adults that were my teachers in school. It's scary how many people I've had to either cut off or severely limit myself to what they say. How many folks have you had to cut off from friendship?
Believe it or not,
family?
one.
Okay.
He was a Trump supporter, but then he talked out both sides of the mouth. Not that he was a Biden supporter, but it ended with George Floyd when he told me the military, they need to put the military on Black Lives Matter protesters. That's not what we do. We don't attack people on American soil. That's not what we do. And he never served a day even in the Salvation Army. So he was talking all that crap. I said, and I hung up on him. I said, we're no longer friends. I'm done. And that's it. And I'm at the point now, if you're okay with January 6th, the insurrection, and you still support Trump, if everything he did during his 4 years wasn't up, but January 6th was okay with you, I don't care who you are. I'm done. I have nothing to say to them. I don't care how close we were for years. I can't bite my tongue because you support a treasonous traitor, and that's not what I gave willingly. There was no draft. There was a draft during Trump. It took 5 deferments. Mm-hmm. I joined willingly. Anybody that joined after the draft ended joined because they wanted to join, and I joined and did that time.
The losers and suckers comment is the one that really gets under my skin. Like, for him to say that at Arlington Cemetery in front of John Kelly, whose son, you know, died for military service. Like that just shows how little a man he is, how little honor he has. Yeah.
Yeah, the suckers. I don't know if it was at Arlington or if it was overseas at
Or yeah,
in France or somewhere. I think it was. I think I could be wrong, but I think it was in France or somewhere.
yeah.
And
I
it was.
apologize for
Yeah, that's
getting
okay. That's
location
okay.
off, but
Yeah, that's okay.
that
But John Kelly. But Jimmy, you mentioned John Kelly. I have no respect for John Kelly. You know why? Because he's like I think you just said it. He's a Gold Star family. His son was killed. So he heard Trump say that. The minute he said that, John Kelly should have said, here's my resignation. Here's my resignation. But he stayed. And the problem with John Kelly is that he allowed Trump to attack the Johnson family, who's a Gold Star family, the African American Army sergeant that was beheaded. His wife was pregnant, and Trump attacked him. And John Kelly was okay with that. So as far as John Kelly, he's another one. He's an MMF. I won't say the whole word out, but watch my videos and you'll see what MMF stands for. I have no respect for John Kelly. I have respect for his son, but I don't respect him as a general because he didn't stand up. And all those generals, Kelly, McMaster, Milley, and Mattis, I respect, he was a secretary, they all should be on the general's tour, traveling the United States and speaking out about what a threat Donald Trump is, and they're not doing that. A quote here, a quote there, that's not enough for me. You need to get out there.
well, and an issue that I'm only 29 years old, so I've got kind of a long life to live in this world, and there's so much misinformation out there that's been perpetrated by Trump and all of his people. How do we unring that bell and get back towards some kind of regularity? I don't know how you do that.
I'm going to be straight with you, Jimmy. You can't with them. There's nothing you could say. I don't know if you saw the thing where Jimmy Kimmel sent the reporter out and she was interviewing people. Oh, you still there?
Yeah, I cleared up my camera. My bad. Bro.
Okay, so Jimmy Kimmel sent a reporter out. I don't know if it was at a rally where she was interviewing, and she was reading stuff. The first one she read, she says, "Oh yeah, President Biden said to drink bleach and basically shove a light up your you know what." And the lady says, "Dementia. He's got dementia. He's insane." And she goes, "Oh, my notes are wrong. That was actually Donald Trump." The lady in the same beat turned around, "Oh, well, you know, they got CT scan and this and this and this and this." Then she brought up about the bone spurs. And she says, "Oh," to a lady. The lady says, "Oh, Joe Biden's not patriotic," and whatever, you know, paraphrasing. And then she goes, "Oh, no, that was actually Donald Trump." She says, "Oh, bone spurs. Well, you know, if you were marching over in Vietnam, it would be very hard to march with." But you see, so the realistically, Jimmy, at this point, they're gone. There's no peeling them off. They're gone. Who we need to appeal to is the independents who will make a difference in this election, and people who want to say, "Well, I don't know. I don't want to vote. I don't like Joe Biden." I don't care if you don't like Joe Biden. Do you like democracy? If you like democracy, then you have to go to the polls and vote for Joe Biden, because the only two candidates that are there are President Biden and Donald Trump. And no candidate is going to check all of your boxes. They're not. But it's not even a check box. Like, you know, he's pro-life, I'm pro-choice, but I do like his tax plan, whatever it could be for your nominee. Democracy or autocracy. And that's what it boils down to.
Well, and people are going to fall victim. Some will, not everyone will, but like Kennedy and Yang, all of these third party folks, like that's a waste of a vote. Don't do it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're pathetic. They're pathetic.
As far as let's do something a little lighter. What brings you peace, sir, when you have some time?
What brings me peace? Working out every day. I do a boxing workout. I started back August 1st, lost a lot of weight, got back in fighting shape, and that brings me peace. I love working out. I love hitting the heavy bag and doing a complete boxing workout. It brings me a lot of peace because it gets rid of frustration for the moment. You know?
Yeah.
But that brings me peace.
You can take out your frustration on the bag.
Yeah, I see Donald Trump's face.
That was something else I was going to ask you. Like, I'm surprised, and I know he's president of the United States and he's surrounded by security. I'm surprised that nobody's punched him at this point. Like, do you think that someone will?
Well, no, wait, I got to correct you. You said he's president of the United States. You're talking about Trump. President. He's not president of the United States.
Former president of the United
Yeah,
States.
for that former.
Former,
Yeah, yeah.
but
No, they think he is. They still think he is on the
yeah,
right.
which current title, which is
Yeah,
scary. But
right.
um, do you ever see 45 getting punched square in the mouth by someone?
I'm going to pass on that question because I don't
Okay,
want it to be perceived that any violence towards him.
sure,
So
sure.
I'm going to pass on that one. I'm going to
That's
not say anything.
that's fair. That's fair. He's just someone that ignites that kind of emotion from people,
Yes, he does.
you know.
Yes, he does.
So
And he knows he does. He does it on purpose. Yeah.
yeah, cruelty is part of the point with that. But with you being a boxing fan, is Rocky like your favorite movie? Would you say?
I like Rocky. Unfortunately, Stallone is a Trump supporter, so I kind of lost respect for Sly.
Oh, okay.
So doesn't take away from the character Rocky, but yeah, Rocky it's up there.
Okay. What other movies do you watch when you have
Oh
time?
well, my favorite, if you're going to ask me that, my
Yeah.
favorite movie is The Godfather. The Godfather 1, 2, and then Scarface is number 3. Obviously, I like mafia movies.
Okay. I would say the same thing. Casino is another one that I love. Anything done like that. Um, Also, we'll document to the rebuttal from that Alabama senator. What were your thoughts on that
I
crazy
went after
deal?
her. I did an MMF video. Katie Britt, the junior senator from Ala F in Bama, and the senior senator is Tommy Tuberville, another piece of garbage.
Mm.
It was ridiculous. That was the weirdest. First of all, I acted, and I studied under Emmy winner Mike Baker, and my dad studied under the legendary teacher and actor Lee Strasberg. So I know a little bit about acting. I didn't have a huge career, but I know about acting. I've been on stage. That was the worst performance I have ever seen. They should have given her an Oscar for the worst performance last night. It's ridiculous. And she lied about the story. The young lady was trafficked and sex trafficking, but it wasn't during President Biden's time. But they spin it, so now she had to clean that up. But ridiculous, ridiculous. That's the best the Republican Party can do.
And then you have Scarlett Johansson do the SNL spoof of it. I mean, Colin Jost, I bet, was probably like, "My wife can do it," and then everybody's like, "Okay, that's cool," because
She nailed it. She nailed it.
it's hard to narrow that down. Let's see. The thing that concerns me about MAGA, and I said this years ago with Noel on his podcast, MAGA is essentially the American Al Qaeda. Like I don't know how you de-radicalize these folks. Again, like they're beyond help, but we are going to have to live with them. So I mean, I don't know. It's part of the struggle. This whole
It is part of the struggle. Here's the thing. When we beat Trump in November, hopefully, it doesn't end the ideology because until the day he leaves and goes straight to hell, he's going to be talking crap just like he did. He already has said if he doesn't win, the election is stolen. So we're back there again. We're back in 2020. The thing is, people have to remember you have to vote in state, local, and federal elections. And I've always said I don't want one party. That's not healthy for the country either to have one party. You need two parties, but there is no Republican Party anymore. They're the party of Trump. They're the MAGA party. They're not like pushing back like the Democrats want to spend $5 billion and they push back and say no, we need to spend $3 billion. There's no really working together. I know there has been some bipartisanship on obviously the bills that President Biden has gotten through. But look at the border one. You got Langford out of Oklahoma, who brought a bipartisan bill that Democrats agreed with, but Trump called Johnson, who's another creep, another religious creep, maggot,
yeah.
and he called him and said, "Kill the bill," and they won't take a vote on it. That's it should be country over party, but the party is not even the Republican Party; it's the party of Trump. And yeah, we'll have to live with them, but there's what they have to remember is if they take to the streets, if that's what they decide to do, there's a lot more of us. And liberals, we don't have to talk about our guns and put pictures up on our Twitter page and talk shit and walk around. We don't do that. We don't. Maybe some crazies on our side, a few, excuse me, but we don't do that. It's like we don't walk around with Biden paraphernalia. We won the election. Why do we need to do that? They do it. So they just need to remember that there's more of us than them. Even even if he wins the electoral college somehow and Biden wins the popular vote again, which he probably will, it means there's more of us. So if you decide you want to take to the streets and have a civil war, just remember there's more of us than you.
In regard to a civil war, one thing going on right now that's worth documenting is you've got Governor Abbott in his wheelchair, making it difficult at the border for National Guard to deal with what they have to. How do you see that unfolding?
Well, first, I think he's a POS.
Yeah.
And I find it despicable that he's in a wheelchair. He wasn't born with it. I think a tree fell on him when he was running. Something happened and he was paralyzed. Wouldn't you think that someone in a wheelchair would have a little bit of empathy? But if we do our research, we had another person that was shot in the campaign, George Wallace from Alabama. He's the one that said segregation now, segregation forever. He was out and out racist, and he ran I think he ran in 72. Might have ran more than once. Same thing in a wheelchair. He has no empathy at all. And I'll be the first one to tell you, we have a problem at the border, not the problem that the right makes it out to be. Yeah. And then you get the strongest bill possible brought by a very conservative Langford of Oklahoma. They don't want to do it because of Trump. Abbott is rotten. But I remind people, they talk about Trump, they talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene, they talk about Abbott. Here's the problem. Abbott didn't go to the polls and vote however many times to win the election. His constituents voted him in. So what is the commentary on the people that continuously vote in these evil, rotten people? That makes you evil and rotten too.
Yeah. If you go along with what a racist says, that makes you a racist.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it was a comedian before he got elected in 2016. It was like, are you a racist necessarily? This was at the time. He was like, no, but if you're a racist, you're certainly voting for Donald Trump. Like that's your pick out of the choices that we had. Book banning is something else that's going on in Indiana. I shouldn't have to. That's another thing about this conversation, Brad, that I wish we weren't having is like we shouldn't have to explain that burning books and letting ideas fade away are a bad thing. Like we should at least have the option to see ideas without them being limited to us.
I agree with Moms for Liberty, who blocked me on Twitter because I went after them. They couldn't handle the smoke that I brought.
Good for you.
They're full of crap. Because here's the thing: if a parent wants to sign a thing and say they don't want their kids reading those books, that's fine. That's the parent's prerogative not to read a book on transgender or whatever it may be. There's so many books that they're banned. I can't even think of all of them. It makes my head explode. That's your right because they are underage kids. But it's not your right to say the book should be banned and another parent who wants their child to read it because it's called a public library that they can't read it. But see, they'll spin it. They always spin it. They're not for diversity. They're not for being inclusive. They want to be exclusive. They want the world, the United States, to be how they want it to be. And that's not how it should ever be. Because burning books is going back to the Hitler days. Okay, Nazi Germany. And that's what they want. And that's what Donald Trump is. I've said it and I stand by it on my show. Donald Trump is America's Adolf Hitler. And if he had the opportunity to march people like me that talk out about him, and especially people way higher than me in the media, he'd march us into an oven in a minute because he just hosted Orban, who's a dictator, at Mar-a-Lago. And everybody thinks, his side thinks that's normal. That's strength. He had Mein Kampf on his nightstand. He read the book about Hitler.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I mean, that's what. And I love how he talks about. They ask him. We talked about religion earlier. They asked him, "Well, what's your favorite scriptures?" That's personal. I'm not going to tell you. Anybody that's religious would be more than happy to tell you some verses. He can't tell you because he doesn't know any. He doesn't go to church. He's not religious. He's not anything. And the fact that these people, as I say, will Thelma and Louise off the cliff with this guy shows you what they are.
Well, and he held the Bible upside down. So if you need any more evidence,
right?
Do
you remember this, Jimmy? The reporter asked him, "Whose Bible is that?" He said, "It's a Bible." It wasn't even his Bible. It was a publicity stunt. And the people with the church were very angry that he did that in front of their church.
Yeah, I just I don't understand it, man. As far as music is concerned, sir, you know I'm a music guy. What if I went through your playlist, what would I find?
Frank Sinatra.
I
Right
love
off
it.
the top, Frank Sinatra. You know, Johnny, I'm diversity. I'm fine. Frank Sinatra, my favorite male singer, Edith Piaf, the little sparrow, French. She's long gone, but she was a legend, favorite female singer. But I like uh, old school rap. You ran your Run DMC. I love
All right.
Run DMC. It's tricky. My Adidas, all of those songs. I have their greatest hits on CD. I still play CDs. I don't have. I'm not advanced enough to put it on a playlist. But classic rock, you know, Zeppelin, The Doors, you know, all of that stuff.
Good
Queen, you
deal.
name it.
Good deal. Yeah, for me, my dad played a lot of Stevie Wonder, you know, so I listened to him all the time. Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble with blues, you know, a lot of variety for me too. So that's cool.
I love Stevie played on David Bowie's Let's Dance album. I think he played on Let's Dance, that
He
track.
did.
I think he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Love
was
Stevie.
gonna,
Sadly, he
he,
died in a plane crash years ago.
yeah, you know, that's one guy that I wish I could have seen before he passed because
Yeah.
he was as close
Legend.
to Hendrix as you can get,
He
you
was
know,
the
in
man.
a modern form.
And them cool hats. He used to wear them cool hats.
You got one of those? That would look good on you.
Thanks.
I went ahead and bought a hat for myself. That way I can try to impersonate him every now and again. Um, let's see, dude. Hold on one second. Tell me about your experience with the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame and what led to that, sir. That's really cool.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I've been around the sport since I've been 7 years old. Again, leads back to my father. He introduced me to the sport. He knew several legends that were in the sport, Bo Jack, Kid Gavilan, people like that. So I started watching boxing. And then in 1980, I went to go sign up for football at the old Allen Park in North Miami Beach, Florida. And I heard a noise. It was like, and it was somebody hitting a speed bag. It was the repetition of the speed bag. And the gym was on the other side of the wall. And I went in there and I was captivated. Turned to my father and I said, I don't want to play football. I want to box. And he turned to me and he said, I quote, he said, Bradley, as long as you give it your all, I'll always back you. So for the next 3 years, I boxed amateur. My father was at every training session, every fight. I fought all over Florida. And then in the military, years later, I always loved the sport. I started writing about it in 1997. So 2021 or December of 20, the president of the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame contacted me and said, we're inducting you into the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame for all of it, for amateur boxing, for my media. I got put in for media, but all of it because it started in Florida. So I've been covering boxing for, you know, over a quarter, almost 30 years, you know, soon 30 years. And just an honor of a lifetime, very, very humbling experience to be in and be an inductee and a great class of fellow inductees. And, you know, that's the ring that I wear every day proudly.
There you go. Yeah.
My dad would have, you know, my dad obviously wasn't there, but he was part of my speech. And as I said, you know, I wouldn't be here, wouldn't be in there if it wasn't for my dad.
Um, being a broadcaster and being around a lot of athletes in high school and college, I learned a lot of life lessons with sports. What are some life lessons that you take away from being in boxing?
I think that it teaches if a kid doesn't wasn't my in my case, but I saw a lot of people in the gym that struggle with self-esteem because it's when that bell rings, it's just you. And when you win, or even if you lose, but you do good, I saw a lot of kids growing up that struggle with self-esteem. It gave them self-esteem. Uh, it gave them strength when they were being bullied to fight back, not to be, you know, that's one of the biggest ones. There were kids were being bullied. They go into boxing, they learn how to handle themselves. And bullies, as you know, you punch back against a bully, 9 out of 10 bullies are going to run because that's all they are. They're full of bravado, and they don't expect that from somebody that they were picking on. And again, it's like I said, when the bell rings, your corner's, you know, a few steps down. It's just you. It really is a one-on-one sport, and it's like no other sport. I mean, MMA, you know, you get to use knees and elbows and your body slam, but boxing, most of it is up here.
I was gonna ask you, are you a fan of like the UFC or WWE, different variations
Well,
of that?
WWE, I like back in the day, like when Hulk Hogan and him. I mean, we know it's
Okay.
fake, but
Yeah.
the other stuff fake. And the fact that Donald Trump was involved in it, but and Vince McMahon, who just got in trouble with
Right.
women too, got issues, uh, sexual whatever hell I can't remember what it was, but he got in trouble. I think he resigned from his position, but a good friend of Trump, of course. Imagine that. Um, I've covered UFC, but it's brutal to me. It's a brutal sport. It's just it's not my bag. But what they do in the UFC and what's hurting boxing is they put the best against the best. In boxing, they don't always do that anymore. It used to be the best against the best, and that's kind of disappointing for me with boxing these days. And everything is on pay per view. I know UFC is on pay per view, but they give you a strong card. Boxing gives you a weak card, and they want you to pay $79.95. I'm gonna do that.
So how could boxing improve in the coming years to make it better?
It has to go back to the old days where the best fight the best. And the problem is, it's probably not going to because it's about money. The organizations that rule boxing, they have multiple champions now. It used to be one champion, then it went to two, then it was three, now it's four. And then each organization, to get more sanctioning fees, they have a super champion and this champion, and it dilutes the sport because then the average boxing fan, if you say, well, who's the heavyweight champion? Well, there's a couple of them, you don't even know who it is anymore. I don't know if it can go back, to be honest with you, because everything is about dollars and cents these days. And don't get me wrong, they have to make money, but there's a way to do it. They're doing it to me. They're bastardizing the sport and not lifting it up.
Well, and everything changes when you get punched in the face. Do you
That's Mike
have
Tyson. That's Mike Tyson line.
do you um do you have any advice for taking a punch just in the sweet
Yeah,
spot?
try to move, try to weave, try to do the matrix. But if you do get hit with a punch, hopefully you can get right back up real quick,
Yeah.
especially in these days and times.
Yeah, that's the other thing, man. I wouldn't pick a fight now because everybody has some sort of weapon, either a
Oh no,
knife
the
or
days
some.
almost the days of like, okay, let's put a fist and the best man would win. You're not going to try to kill the person. Them days are over. Those days are completely over. They want to pull out a gun or hit you with a flag like they did at January 6th and
Mm.
all that craziness.
One other thing I want to document here, the way that Trump desecrates the flag too with all of his products makes me sick. Like, stop using the flag for your own profit. That's sickening.
But they don't care, Jimmy. They don't care. You
I know.
see my flag in my shadow box. When I do these videos and I point to it, the MAGA attacks that. Oh, your flag, stolen valor. You never were in the war. But yeah, I was in a war. I never said I walked around and I was shooting at people. I'm not gonna. What I did, most of it was classified. Now he goes, oh yeah, there you go. Throw out the classified line. You can't talk about it. Well, a lot of it I can't talk about. But what I can talk about is I work for the Defense Courier Service, flying on multiple planes in the darkness of night, landing places in country, delivering top secret material. But of course, they know what I did because they know everything like Trump. They don't care about the flag because what I'm talking about, the bastardization of the flag, is when they put Trump on it and they impose his head like on Rambo's body with the gun and he put it on the American flag. That's bastardizing it. When he came out in CPAC in 2017, he humped the flag and he kissed it, and he recently did it again. Nobody in their right mind does that. That's disgusting. That's bastardizing the flag. My grandfather was in World War II, the Italian side of my family. Every Flag Day, every Memorial Day, every Veterans Day, that flag was in front of the house and meant something. When I see a flag today, sadly, the first thought I have in my mind is I bet they're a Trump supporter. Now, I know not all of them are, but a lot of them are. And it's disgusting. And that's the bastardization of the flag. They don't own the flag. Now he's selling the flag that he just humped at CPAC recently. He's selling the flag. That's beyond. But as I say, they claim that they're patriots. I mean, they're not patriots, they're hatriots. And that's what they are. They don't love this country. They love Trump, and Trump doesn't love this country. Because if he did, he would stop all the insanity that he's doing, but he doesn't want to.
What's your message to voters?
You
With
better take this seriously. If you think that Biden is equal to Trump and either one of them are good, then you need to go and sit with a psychologist and work it out. Because, as I said, I know Biden will not check all your boxes. He don't check all my boxes. There's no candidate that's going to check every single box. That's unrealistic. But if you want democracy, or you want autocracy, and you want a dictator, and you think that you're going to be safe because you're MAGA, forget MAGA. But if you sit back and you're independent, and you think, well, you know what, I'll just sit this one. I'm not giving Joe Biden my vote. You're part of the problem. This is, you hear it all the time. I'm 55 going on 56 next month, the most important election of our lifetimes. But I also want to remind people, not just the president, you need to vote down ballot for Congress people, local, state, and federal. Because these ones in these local houses, like in Indiana, they're doing a lot of stuff that you don't hear about. They want to take women's rights away, and they are taking women's rights away. Here's the thing. They don't even want to have exceptions to the rule for abortion. And any woman that supports a misogynistic pig like Trump, who, by the way, was pro-choice before he pushed this whole pro-life thing, he's not pro-life. He's not pro-choice. He's pro-Trump. And people need to remember that. Get out and vote and take people with you. Take people with you. And be careful. I know there's people that want to go and knock on doors. It's a different time, folks. Be careful, because these people are crazy. They'll shoot you, and depending on where you're at, they'll twist it and turn it, and nothing will happen. Just be careful out there. Use this, because I always say when I open those MMM videos, they do the most with the least. So remember that.
Ending on a positive note, something that you have carried with you in your material and how you live your life. What are ways that we all can move humanity forward?
My saying is probably the quickest one I could say to you. My saying that I live my life by daily is, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. Kindness can be the smallest thing. It could be smiling at somebody, be holding the door for somebody. It could be letting somebody in. Of course, in Indiana, when you let somebody in, they can't even lift their arm up to say thank you, because they're so rude out here. Yeah. They're so rude. But just the smallest acts, because here's the thing. If more and more people do it, it catches on. It creates an environment where we remember humanity. Because as much as democracy is on the ticket in November, humanity is too. Because Trump doesn't care about humanity. MAGA doesn't care about humanity. They want to wipe out the LGBTQ community, and I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to stand by and remain silent like my father did in his day. So little acts of kindness. And remember, folks, the right wants to say that kindness is weakness. When they say that, remember, people that say kindness is weakness are really the weak ones, because they think Trump is strong. He's full of bravado, and he's full of shit. That's all he is. And Jimmy, I'll remind your viewers of this. 2 days ago, he came out. Now, remember, he's a billionaire. He says he's a billionaire. Mm-hmm. He comes out and he says, I humbly ask you for $5, $10, $25. And then in the next sentence, he says, but I know people are struggling and all that and this, that, and the other, because every penny he gets, he wants to go to his legal fund, not for his campaign, to pay his legal bills, because his legal bills are out of this world. So that would be my message. Just remember random acts of kindness, and do it. I'm done. Save your energy for people that you think it can make a difference. Don't try to change MAGA, because at this point, that 30, 35%, whatever it is with Trump, after everything, they don't want to hear it. They don't respect you. And stop associating and stop making excuses for him. Because Aunt Polly may be 80 years old, but I'm tired of hearing, well, she's in the Fox News bubble. No, Aunt Polly was a racist, evil person when she was in her 30s. She just needed a vessel, which is Fox News and Trump, to really be who Aunt Polly was all those years ago.
Yeah, validation goes a long way. Brad, thank you for being here, brother. I appreciate it. Is there any before we get out of here, where can folks access your content and connect with you?
Okay. They can find me on Twitter. I will never call it X. I don't like old Musk, apartheid Clyde Eli. You can find me at Bad Brad RSR. You can find stuff on my personal website, which is badbradberkwitt.com. And my show, the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show, is on YouTube. Just type in Bad Brad Berkwitt and it'll come right up. I got tons of content. I've had some great guests on that are democracy fighters and people that are moving humanity forward. And Jimmy, I appreciate you having me on, brother. I do. And it's people like you getting the word out, standing up. I'm glad you told a story about having, you said cerebral palsy, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Mike Pence coming up to you because I know exactly how he talked, because that's how they do. They talk down to you. Oh, I'm surprised they didn't pat you on the head and say, that type of talk. It's terrible. That's terrible. But but you look at him, he's so out there, it's not even funny. And but he's religious, he's a Christian. No, he's not. He's anything but. And he's the type, I'll end it like this. He's the type, I said the other day in one of my videos, if Jesus Christ were to come back to earth and they would say to the MAGA cult, who's going to get crucified today, Jesus Christ or Donald Trump? I know it's a funny line, but I'm being dead serious. Jesus Christ is going 0 for 2. He's going to be crucified again, and they're going to save Trump because Trump is their God.
Yeah, he's the best televangelist I've seen in this world so far. Yeah, and let me say to you, Brad, as somebody that's living in Indiana, folks like you give me hope for this state and for this country. So thank you for what you do. I appreciate it.
All right, Jimmy. Again, thank you for having me on, brother.
Folks, to check out this episode and all others, you can make your way over to @JBK on air on all social media platforms. Plus, head over to linktree.com/JBK on air for everything related to the show. And if you feel compelled to donate to the program, you can also do that with the link in the description. Until next time, have a great day and a better tomorrow.